Zoe. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. How are you, Dr. Campbell?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm not sure why I can just see my Zoe, please. I'm trying to get them to see you and I only see me, so that's weird. Um, okay. So today we are going to be talking today about gut health, okay? And I'm super excited about this because I know a lot of people have gut issues. And so before we get into all of it, I'm going to have you give yourself a little bit of a background of who you are because you specialize in gut health. And before we get started, you guys, I just want to say, go ahead, Dr. Campbell, I'll let you say, go ahead, introduce yourself first.
Oh, okay. Um, well, I'm a functional medicine practitioner. I'm an osteopathic trained physician. I've been practicing medicine for over 25 years. I quit counting at 25 because I figure that's enough, right?
Yes.
Um, I'm board certified in emergency medicine. That's where I began my practice, but I realized towards the end of my emergency medicine career that we really needed more people preventing health issues that drove people into the emergency department. I flipped into a functional medicine practice, and I'm been doing that for about 10 years. And I launched a telehealth practice during COVID. Have been using CBD for as long as it's been legal, and lots and lots of research. That's kind of who I am. So I'm always digging around in the new research and what's going on.
You are.
Um, yeah,
Love it.
and I specialize in gut health, but I treat all kinds of different issues for people. And yeah, I'm super excited to be here and answer any questions that you have or
Yes. Okay, good. This is exciting. Thank you for joining us today. I just want to give a little medical disclaimer. The information provided is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health providers with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have read or received from this content. So now that we got that fun stuff out of the way, Dr. Campbell, I was going back to the gut health. I know I've had spouts in my life where I've dealt with some, issues with my gut and trying to get that back on track. And so many people, I know when I was going through that, so many people don't know where to turn. So, what is something that is super basic that everybody can do in their daily life to prevent the bloating, the pain, and all that when you're going to eat something? You have to watch what you eat. What would you suggest for that?
yeah, that's a great question. And there's a lot of different, I don't know, there's at least a few things I can think of right off the top of my head. So, as far as diet, I mean, what you eat, right, is part of it. So, wanting to eat things that are not highly processed, reading in the labels on the food that you are eating, is really important. Actually, reading the labels of any product that you're using is really important. And I like to recommend Environmental Working Group's website. They have a really nice website that they keep current on any chemical additives, preservatives, herbicides, pesticides, any chemicals that exist in nature or that are not in nature, sorry, in the world, is basically listed there. So when you're reading your ingredient labels, it's a great thing to pull up on your smartphone and go through anything that you don't recognize, right? If you can't
Right.
say it, you probably shouldn't eat it. And typically, I would say anything that's in a box or a bag, if it can sit on the shelf for more than 2 weeks and not spoil, it's probably not food, with the exception, of course, of things that are canned, natural things that you've canned or dried. So things like dried rice or um, other things that you can dry and keep. Besides that, it's typically not great for you because of the preservatives and chemicals that they put into those products for you, right? To preserve it, but it's
Right.
not good for you. And it will absolutely create havoc in the gut, which creates havoc in the body.
Right. So I love what you said there a little bit about reading the labels because I'm a label nut, okay? Like I
Okay.
drive my family crazy, but they're all picking up on it as well. Um, so lot of genetically modified food, Dr. Campbell. What does that do to your gut?
Yeah, so we're not, I mean, if you think about it, we've developed over millennia with certain plants in our area that we're meant to eat. And we were not meant to eat these things that have been genetically modified. Typically, the genetically modified foods have been created, the auspices of a positive, they were actually created, a lot of them were created by Monsanto, which is kind of interesting. So they
Hmm.
created these GMO products and then they created the herbicide to keep the pests off of it. And it kind of came as a package deal so that they could, and the premise was that they could feed more people, that there was world hunger, and the idea was to create more crops. And on the surface, that seems like a great idea. But the problem is, of course, that the pesticides that are used on that crop deplete the soil, deplete the plants of any nutrients, and not only just that one crop they've used it on, but for years and years and years because it stays in the soil. So anything you plant there for years and years and years, a decade or more, will still have depleted nutrients. So these things are creating a picture where we have fewer nutrients in the foods that we're eating, and it's creating a picture where it's food basically that our body's not used to trying to use to get the nutrients out of it. So it's a complicated picture, but I always like to say, you know, if you can think about how we used to live before we came inside, got dressed, put on shoes, and started using false lighting, you know, when we used to live outside and closer, much closer to nature, the things that we did and the things that we ate and those things are usually the things that are better for us. So as much as we can mimic that, I'm not suggesting we should all get naked and live outside, but,
Really
um,
might not be a bad idea at this point.
but but as much as you can replicate that inside your home, in your pantry, in what you eat, in what you use on your skin, and the lighting you use in your home, all of those things, as much as we can mimic how we developed over millennia, our bodies developed in a distinct link with nature. And if we can continue that link, or we can bring that link back inside with us, we will be healthier people overall, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. So being this came up about the genetically modified food and the pesticides and whatnot, how does this affect our gut microbiome? Because that's super important, and I know you're all about that. So can you explain, like,
Yes.
if we're eating these processed foods, what is that doing to our body?
Yes, it's a great question. So and just for anyone who may not understand what the word microbiome means, we humans, each one of us has bugs that live on us and in us, and we are in a symbiotic relationship. We're more like a colony than a single being. And all of these organisms inside of us and on us work to help us, and we work to help them. We're truly in a symbiotic relationship, and our ecology, it's very important that we maintain it for each other. And the way that we can maintain the microbiome, the proper microbiome, and that just means the little bugs that are supposed to be inside of us. We need to maintain the correct bugs. When we have the wrong bugs in there, what we're not supposed to have in there, then they secrete chemicals, they create havoc, um, they create a very unhealthy picture, not only in our gut, but in our entire body, because we rely on our microbiome to convert a lot of our food into the nutrients that we need. Perfect example. So when you eat a big bowl of green leafies, right, you're supposed to be getting vitamin K, certain vitamins out of that, vitamin K being one of them.
Okay.
It's a necessary vitamin for us to have in our diet so that we can put calcium where it goes in our bones rather than in our arteries, so that there's a lot of different biologic mechanisms that vitamin K is part of. But the vitamin K is not in the spinach or the greens. The precursor to the vitamin K is, and our microbiome converts it to vitamin K so that we can absorb that. So
Wow.
the microbiome eats what we eat, and then uses that to create chemicals that we need, vitamins, minerals, chemicals, things that we use in our bodies to to have our cells perform the way that they need to. So when we don't have a healthy relationship with our microbiome, and we're not eating the right things, or we're eating pesticides that kill our microbiome off, or we take antibiotics that completely obliterates anything living in there. And then God knows what's going to grow back, right? And it's usually not usually not good what grows back. So maintaining a healthy microbiome is super important for our health overall, for our brain health, our heart health,
Yeah.
not just our gut, not just, not having pain, bloating, and can't close your jeans up, whatever. It's much deeper than that. It affects our brain's functioning. It affects our joints. It affects the swelling and inflammation in our bodies. It affects our immune system. I mean, and on and on and on and on. So,
It's a domino effect, is it not?
yes, it is.
That was my next question because, you know, our gut, they call that our second brain. And
Yes.
so I know people that have had gut issues that they get severe brain fog. They don't, they can't even function properly. Why
Mhm.
is that?
It's multifactorial. But the reason that we call the gut the second brain is because 3/4 of our neurotransmitters, and those are the chemicals that our nerves use to fire correctly, they're created in the gut and then used by the brain. So when our gut isn't working correctly, our brain can't work correctly. That's basic right there. Also, when we have leaky gut, or we have areas of the gut lining that are broken and cracked and open, we start allowing large proteins across into the bloodstream that are not meant to be there, which the immune system freaks out and thinks, oh my God, I'm being attacked by my rice or my spinach or my whatever it is. And it could be anything. It's not just the things that we typically think of as not being healthy. It can even be healthy food that creates this picture if your gut is leaky. And you create these antibodies and you have this huge immune response and all kinds of inflammation that's created in order to fight off the food that's attacking me, right? That's what happens. Whenever you have an inflammation reaction, that's what the immune system does on purpose in order to bring the cells there to fight the problem.
Mm.
That's the whole point. But what happens is when you're creating inflammation when you don't really need it, is now you're creating inflammation in your brain, you're creating inflammation in your joints, you're creating inflammation in your hands and your fingers and your toes, every place, your heart. So if that makes sense, these are only a few reasons why there's a deep connection between brain health and brain function and gut health.
Okay.
I could
So
go on and on, but those are the
that's incredible. So how would somebody know, like, what are some of the symptoms if you do have leaky gut? Because I think a lot more people may have that than realize. And they
yeah.
just, think, oh, I can't eat this or it hurts my stomach or whatnot. So how does somebody know without going and getting testing done?
Well, you don't really without getting testing done, to be honest.
Okay.
But there are certain symptoms that you may notice, but it's a much longer list than you would think, right? I mean, you might think abdominal pain after eating, bloating, gas, embarrassing things, nausea, change in your bowels. Maybe you're not having a normal stool. Maybe you're having diarrhea alternating with constipation. Those kinds of things can be an indicator too. But it can also be brain fog. It can be arthritis. It can be joint pains. It can be asthma. It can be allergy symptoms. It can be all. I mean, there's such a deep connection between leaky gut and the entire body that these symptoms can. I mean, and I actually have a slide that I made once upon a time, which I could throw up if you wanted me to on the page, but it
Yeah.
goes through a huge amount of these symptoms, and it's not just gut symptoms, it's whole body symptoms. The
Wow.
immune system, yeah, as we have leaky gut, and basically what that is, for those who don't know what leaky gut is, the lining of the gut should be the same as our skin, right? Our little skin cells should be tightly connected, and it's a barrier. That's the function of our gut, is a barrier. It's also an absorptive organ, same as our skin.
Right.
So when your cells should fit super tight together, kind of like my knuckles are here. There,
Mm-hmm.
can you see that? And
Yes.
there's actually even a belt that goes around each cell and tightens it. It's called a tight junction, but the belt tightens that together. What happens when you get inflammation or you have some cause for that leaky gut to begin is these cells begin to separate. And now you can see large proteins can come through into the bloodstream that aren't supposed to. If you have a good barrier, they're not going to get into the bloodstream and you're not going to have an immune reaction. But if they're separated, different story. So now you start developing immune reactions. They typically start with food allergies, which most people don't even recognize that they are developing, because food allergies can look like sinus issues, itchy eyes, asthma. It can look like joint pains. It can look like all kinds of things that you wouldn't necessarily think, oh, it's because I ate that potato that I shouldn't be eating because my body's reacting to it. Or it's not because you don't think it's because of leaky gut. And most conventional doctors don't understand the connection, although it is starting to seep into their literature, their practices, but not to the extent that we really would like to see. But as that immune dysfunction, and that is an immune dysfunction based on these proteins coming in, the immune system begins revving up and reacting to all these proteins that are coming in across this leaky gut. As that process continues, now you develop even more allergic or immunological issues. So now you probably have been sent to a rheumatologist, or you've seen a dermatologist because you've got all these patches and itchy things on your skin. Or maybe you've seen an ophthalmologist, an eye doctor, because your eyes itch all the time and you can't see right and you get little floaters in your eyes. Those things can be all related to leaky gut. So, or maybe you've seen your ear, nose, and throat specialist because you wake up every morning with phlegm in the back of your throat and you have chronic sinus issues, and now you're taking antibiotics 2 or 3 times a year. So this is the process. And then if you haven't fixed it by the time you're here, this is when you begin to get so bad, you start developing autoimmune disease. So now your thyroid stops working, or you start attacking your gut. Your immune system is so highly revved up, it just begins attacking different tissues of your body. That's what an autoimmune disease is, basically. So it's a kind of a continuum between healthy, fully intact gut with a good microbiome to 1 autoimmune disease, 2 autoimmune diseases, 3 autoimmune diseases, cancer, right? These are all on that same continuum. So, yeah. So no, finding out whether you have leaky gut is a super important thing to do. But even if you do find that, then you still need to know what to do about that, right? So things that you can do about that, what should you specifically do about it? Because everyone is built differently.
Right.
So these are all the kind of the questions and things that come up with this topic. I know it's very complex, but
yeah, wow to everything you just shared, because I think most of us didn't realize, really. You just think, oh, I eat something, my stomach's a little bloated, that doesn't feel good, but why? And to have a domino effect like that, is it fair to say that health, or true health, really starts in the gut?
so it's interesting you say that, and I would agree on a certain level. And when I first started my practice, I would have absolutely 100% said that. And you can probably go back in my YouTube channel and find videos where I said absolutely all health and all disease starts in the gut. I actually now believe that it begins in the brain with the mindset and stress control and a lot of things. So I've switched it a little bit, but it's intimately connected with your gut. And it is certainly a huge piece of that puzzle. Yes.
This has been fantastic. I do have a question. How would CBD play a role in helping somebody balance their gut? Is that something that can benefit?
It absolutely is. Actually, it's pretty incredible. If you get on PubMed and you put in CBD and gut health, or CBD and microbiome, or CBD and inflammation, CBD and arthritis, CBD and autoimmunity, CBD and Crohn's disease, CBD and inflammatory bowel disease, I mean, I can just throw these things out. Go look. Write those things down and go look it up. It's really important. And I always encourage people to do their own research and look at the literature, but it is incredible what CBD can do. First, it reduces inflammation. That is the backbone of what your main problem is. If your immune system is highly, highly revved up from a leaky gut, it's creating inflammation constantly in your body, which is what creates a lot of these symptoms that we have that ends up with a diagnosis code. So reducing the inflammation is a huge piece of that puzzle. Both the CB1 and CB2 receptors, which are the receptors that grab on to CBD, we have those all in our gut lining. So we are meant to use our endocannabinoid system to balance and to bring things into balance. It is well documented in the literature that taking CBD, a full spectrum particularly, but a broad spectrum is also good, can improve your microbiome all by itself. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
It
incredible.
also improves your stress levels, and stress alone, believe it or not, if you are living in a fight or flight state where you are constantly in stress mode, you are damaging your microbiome simply by increasing all that cortisol in your body all the time. That 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 stress reaction creates a leaky gut all by itself. So I mean, there's a million things you can do to get a leaky gut, but that all by itself can do it. Birth control pills can do it. Antibiotics can do it. And most people don't know birth control pills can do it. And I say that because it's important for any woman of childbearing years who may be taking that to know that their birth control may create a leaky gut situation. That's important in the decision making on how to approach conception versus trying to avoid that, et cetera. So I put that out there. Stress by itself can create a poor microbiome, bad lighting. So our microbiome absorbs light from the sun and it reflects light inside of our body. So most people don't know that the correct microbiome actually creates UV light inside of our bodies. That's
Well,
pretty cool too.
that's
So we
amazing.
are light beings, right? We are light beings, and I say this all the time. We are meant to absorb the light of the sun, but the little buggers on our bodies and in our bodies do that too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dr. Campbell, this has been incredible today. I know I've learned a lot just by, just you sharing the things that you shared. So so if somebody wants to start, what are three things that they could start right away that would help them feel better?
Yes. So I would say get rid of the foods in boxes and bags that last on a shelf more than 2 weeks. Eliminate those things. They're a waste of your money, and buy real food. If it grows outside where you live, that's real food. That's what you want. Typically meats, fruits, and vegetables. Those are the best things you can be eating. I like to say all the colors on your plate, right? Because you need all the colors on your plate, the different colors of things reflect the different nutrients that are in those things, and they reflect the different light that they've absorbed that you're absorbing when you eat it as well. So it's not just the nutrients that's in the food, it's the light that's in the food that's absorbed by the plant that you're now taking in. Healthy meat, important as well, because we need the protein to build our molecules, right? We need that. Healthy meat is something that is living out and living on the food that it's supposed to eat. So whatever food your animal eats that you're eating, you're eating. So if you're feeding if you're eating animals that are fed highly vegetarian, soy-based, right, crappy diets, you're eating that too. So if it's not something you would want to eat yourself, then you don't want your animal eating it. So it's important to know where your meat is coming from. So that's a huge piece too. Number
Wow.
two, I would say take a full spectrum CBD. It is fairly inexpensive if you're getting it from the right place, like here. High quality is really important. Lab tested is really important. Grown the right way is really important. And like I said, lab tested to make sure that there's no mold in the product and there's no herbicides and pesticides. That's really important because the plant that we use is called cannabis, of course, that we use to get CBD is a highly absorptive plant. It absorbs a lot of chemicals from the environment. So it has to be grown the right way, has to be processed the right way, and then it needs to be lab tested to make sure that you're not getting those chemicals in that plant. But if you find a product like that, which you can get through kokuavida, which is my favorite place to recommend, if you're taking that every day, it can help reduce inflammation. It can help improve your sleep, which is where you recover and recuperate. It improves your stress levels, which helps your gut. It improves your gut all by itself. It improves the microbiome, and on and on and on. There's a lot of things that CBD can do for you in balancing your endocannabinoid system, which is a master control system. So that's two. So I'm supposed to come up with three, you said, right?
Yeah, well, you don't have to come up with three. I just
I
like.
got three.
Okay, go ahead, share.
So first thing in the morning, watch the sunrise and expose your belly to it, because there's a lot of red light that's free in that sunrise, and it gets absorbed deep into your body, much deeper than you would think. You think it just hits your skin and bounces off. That's not what happens. We absorb that light. We use that light. The first 90 days of the, or sorry, 90 minutes of the day, there's no UV light at all. It's only basically red light and some of the other colors of light, but there's zero UV light until you get past that 90-minute window. Then the UV light starts to increase through the day, including like blue light, ultraviolet lights, some of the green, blues, whatever. So those come in the middle of the day. And towards the end of the day, the last 90 minutes of the day is again, a lot of red light. Well, your microbiome really loves light and especially loves red light. So first thing in the morning, watching the sunrise can really be a very powerful add. Not only is it relaxing and enjoyable and a great way to start your day, but it really can improve your health on a huge level.
Wow, that's incredible, Dr. Campbell. Thank you for that. One of the questions for like say for beef, is it important that it's grass fed or grain fed? I know because sometimes it'll be grass fed, but then it's grain finished. And that
Yes.
makes a big difference, doesn't it?
It sure does. So that's a really great question. So grass fed is important because there's a lot of reasons. It's what the cow is supposed to eat. It's not supposed to eat all this grain. The reason that farmers feed the grain is to make the cow fatter, to get more meat out of it, to make more money, right? I mean, and farmers need to make money. So there's no problem with that, but I'm just saying, but that makes it unhealthy meat. The meat is not nearly as healthy as it would be if they were eating the normal grass diet. There is an increase in the nutrient density in the meat as well when they eat a grass-fed diet. And the mitochondrial, there's a component of mitochondrial health that comes along with that. If you're eating grass-fed meat, you are going to have better mitochondrial function in your own cells based on the nutrient density and the power of eating what you're supposed to eat and the way that that is supposed to be grown. Now, what a lot of companies will do to get the grass-fed label on the meat and be able to charge more is they will do grass-fed, but then when it's about time before they butcher, in the months before butchering, they feed them a ton of grain to finish them with grain so that they're fatter and there's more meat to charge more. So it actually, I mean, it's better. Okay, so grass fed, not grass finished, is better than never grass fed.
Right.
So basically, it's traditional or conventional meat. Then it's organic, which is better, which means that all that means is they're feeding it organic feed. So at least it's not covered in herbicides and pesticides. So you've gotten rid of that when you go organic, but it's still not being fed what it needs to be fed. So then there's organic, then there's grass fed organic. That's better, but a lot of times they grain finish it. So now you want to go 100% organic, grass fed, grass finished. That is really what you want. That is the best meat. And it's a little bit more expensive, but there are more and more companies coming out now that are on the bandwagon. And because of the wonderful part of capitalism, the more companies, the price begins to drop because there's more competition. So competition is good for the marketplace. And right now I can get grass-fed meat much cheaper than I was able to do 10 years ago when I started on this bandwagon, or I guess it's longer than 10 years now, but 13, 14, 15 years when I went gluten-free and started eating pastured and grass-fed. Anyway, so yes, you want it to be 100% grass-fed and grass-finished. And if you can add on local, that's even better because now the meat hasn't traveled a long distance and hasn't had to be frozen or all these other things that have to happen. So the best meat is local, grass-fed, grass-finished.
Okay, that's good because that's what I have for our. That's good. I get it local, so I checked all the boxes on that one. Today was
And that's, so let me say this too. So that counts too for your eggs, your chickens. You want your chickens to be eating outside. Chickens are not vegetarians. They actually are meant to eat worms and little buggies out of the grass, in addition to other things. And when they do that, you get a much more nutrient dense egg that is much healthier for you. So pastured eggs where they are outside all the time or have the ability to go outside all the time, that's super important.
Yeah, there's a big difference in the yolks. I noticed, like getting
Yes.
local. I have friends that have chickens. I get my eggs, and it's like orange compared to if you
Yes.
get it in the store, it's like a light yellow.
Yes. Now, most farmers that have pastured chickens also do give them some feed. They supplement some feed. So again, it's important to know what feed are they supplementing your chickens with. If you have a soy allergy and they're supplementing, even if it's organic, and they're supplementing with an organic soy, your chicken's eating it, your egg's going to have it in there. So you just have to, like, you have to realize that it's not just what you're looking at in front of you. It's the whole process. In the same way that it's important, the whole process of how we grow, process, harvest, bottle, distill, all the things about CBD. It's the same thing with your meat. You need to know the whole thing. How did that animal live? Was it all crowded up with a million other animals in a really nasty space with really poor quality feed, right? Is that what you're eating? That's not awesome. It's not awesome for the animal, but it's definitely not awesome for you. Are you eating a chicken that roams and eats its natural diet, but is fed soy and you're allergic to soy? And now you wonder why you have an egg allergy, right? So maybe it's not an egg allergy. Maybe it's a allergy to the feed. So you have to start dissecting things at a very deep level, which becomes labor intensive, but it's worth it. It's
Right.
worth it to get your health back. So
I would totally agree with that. Health is everything, and that's true wealth. And if we don't have our health, then we realize then how important it is. So
yeah.
today was incredible. Yeah, today was incredible. I was checking to make sure we didn't have any more questions. Dr. Campbell, you're amazing. Thank you for today. You guys, we have another call at 2 o'clock here with Dr. Filner, and Kim will be hosting that one. And then next week you're on again, Dr. Campbell. So we'll surprise you guys with the subject that we're going to have for next week. So I would love and appreciate you, Dr. Campbell. Thank you so much. And if you wouldn't mind sharing that chart down in the feed so everybody can see that, anything you want to share down there would be wonderful. So thank you
Yeah,
for your
you
time.
know what? I'll put I actually have a video that goes through all of it on dysbiosis. If you don't mind, I'll just throw my YouTube video in there and you guys can watch it.
That would be perfect. The more information, I mean, getting information in people's hands, and so we know what to do. That's true power. Then we can make changes that way. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Have a great day,
absolutely,
everybody.
absolutely.
Bye.
Bye everybody. Have a great day.